RTX 5000 series GPUs are launching in January 2025, but will you be able to buy one, or are they all going to get bought up by scalpers? And are those cards going to be good enough in terms of price to performance and VRAM to merit your dollar? We'll also talk about the Intel Arc B580 GPU. Reviews are in, people say it's great. But is it actually great, or should you wait for new GPUs? Welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. This is our December 2024 Q&A. We're going to answer all those questions and more coming right up. If you get value out of this video, please give it a like as it makes a huge difference to the channel. And of course, subscribe for more cool PC content. With that, let's jump into it. This video is sponsored by VIP SCD Key. Say goodbye to crazy expensive Windows licenses and that terrible Activate Windows watermark. Right now, use the links in the video description, head over to VIP SCD Key and get a Windows 10 or 11 OEM license for a great price. Pick your product license, then use the PC Builder discount code PC25 for an additional 30% off during their Black Friday sale. Go to the activation settings on your PC, put in the code, and boom! Windows is fully licensed for a crazy low price. And Windows 10 can be upgraded for free to Windows 11. And they have Microsoft Office licenses too. Use the links in the video description. Are you going to be able to get an RTX 5090 or the RTX 5000 series when they launch, or your scalper's going to devour everything? That's what Carlos wants to know. How long could it take until we can actually buy the new gen GPUs? Like after January 6th, when everyone's going to do their announcements, is it going to be a couple weeks or a month? I think a month actually would probably be somewhat optimistic for RTX 5090 buyers. If you look back at the 4090, it was months and months before you didn't have to buy one off of a scalper from eBay, right, and pay exorbitant prices out there. And I would suspect we'll see something similar. Now, hopefully, because we know that the 5090 has been ready for launch for a while, that maybe they'll have even more volume than they had during the 4090 launch. That would be fantastic. Typically it comes down to volume. However, the scalpers are standing by for the 50 series. And we've already seen this with like the 9800 X3D, which we'll talk about in a little bit in terms of restock. People are freaking out that they can't get that thing a month or so after launch. People are freaking out right now about the Intel B580. We'll talk about that in just a second. And this is a harbinger of what is to come. I feel like we all forget every couple of years when new tech comes down the line that we just forget that, number one, there's stock availability issues. Number two, there's early adopter issues. Like, it's not going to work with some things. They're going to have to roll out some fixes and some BIOS updates. Certainly with the 4090s, remember the 4000 series, a lot of motherboards would not even detect the RTX 4090 or the 40 series cards. They had to roll out BIOS updates for it actually to be detected. So if you want to be on the leading edge of product adoption of technology, you just have to learn to put up, number one, with these scalper issues and low stock availability. You got to kind of get good at getting stock. And then the other thing you have to do, you have to be prepared for early adopter issues out there and troubleshoot, and possibly even have to wait a little bit until fixes arrive. You just got to get used to that. I know people are just going to lose their minds when all this new tech comes down. It doesn't work automatically on day one, just like it never has worked automatically on day one. But that's what's ahead of us right now. That being said, it's still a time to get super excited about these new GPUs, new CPUs, all the new stuff coming down the pike. All right, but Photonics says, all right, Jason, but with the new GPUs being announced in January and released shortly thereafter, what are my tips on how to beat the checkout bots? A lot of people never get the opportunity to get these new cards right off the bat. So here's what I would do. And in fact, 4 years ago when the 30 series came out, one of the very first videos that we did that really hit traction was how to beat the bots. And it became our GPU market update series. That was the very first one. And it's changed over the years. But the advice has not really changed from then. Number one, make sure that you have created an account at Newegg, at Best Buy, wherever you go to buy GPUs. Make sure you have an account set up. Make sure your credit card info is ready. Make sure you have the 3-digit code on the back of the card, or 4-digit if it's Amex, whatever. All that stuff ready to go, and that you have logged into all these sites ahead of time, and that you're logged in before you click that link when it goes into stock. Just click and refresh just before they come up. But I would also say, you don't want to get it in your cart and then not be able to check out with it. That's why I'm telling you, spend most of your time focused on making sure that you understand the checkout process. Take something all the way through the checkout process and then just don't buy it at the end. So you're familiar with everything that has to happen. Because when this stuff happens, yes, bots are buying stuff out, and the retailers have done almost nothing to stop this. In fact, they kind of like it because it gives them an excuse to jack up the prices, So I'd say defend yourself, get ready to go, be ready to go as soon as that stuff goes live, and be ready to check out the minute you actually dump it in your cart so you don't have any hiccups and you don't get to the end and click that buy button, click that checkout button, and then it says, oh, it's no longer in your cart. You're like, what's going on here? So I would just focus up on those things. All right, I has Peppers, channel member, by the way. You can join by clicking that link down in the video description. Do you have any concerns about RTX 5000 series as well as RX 8000 series? I hear the 5080 is looking to be more like a 5070. Yeah, so we actually did 2 videos on this. We did a whole video on all the new GPUs that we believe are coming based on leaks, rumors, and actual information from those companies. We go through every single one, where the performance we think is gonna come out and where the price is gonna come out. I'll leave it linked down in the video description. You can check that out. Also leave it linked at the end of this video if you want to watch this video first. And then we did one on all the new CPUs, including NVIDIA CPUs that we believe are coming in 2025. Let me give you in a nutshell my concerns about the 5000 series. I think starting at the top of the stack from the 5090, the concern is price. It's gonna be stupid expensive. It's gonna be a much bigger die. We expect it's gonna be that massive generational uplift over the 4090. Like 60-ish%, just like the 4090 was over the 3090. So in terms of its performance, people are gonna be super happy with it. In terms of the price, it's gonna again be a class of card that's reserved for only ultra enthusiasts who have that kind of money, either have that money to spend or are willing to kind of max out all their credit cards in order to buy something like that. And it's the kind of card you're also gonna wanna have it an ultra high-end build with, like a 9800 X3D, for instance. You're not going to want to dump this in your 5 or 6-year-old gaming PC because you're going to be completely CPU bottlenecked. So you're probably going to want a brand new build unless you're running a 9800 X3D right now. That is the CPU that I would be picking for the RTX 5090. So I think those folks are going to be super happy with it because money is not really an object to them and they just want the best. So they're not looking for price or performance. They're just looking for performance. I believe that will deliver. The problem comes everything below the 5090. And the 5080 right now looks like it is so cut down, it should have probably been called a 5070. If you compare it, the top die versus the 70 class die and the 80 class die in the 4000 and the 3000 series compared to what we have in terms of leaks and rumors. And I want to continue to clarify, take everything with a grain of salt. This is leaks and rumors. There will be an actual announcement. They will actually give all the specs at CES 2025 in January, on January 6th. But from what we've seen so far, it looks like it's massively cut down to the point where it normally would be called a 70 class card. Now that's probably because NVIDIA wants to have a high-end card to sell into China, but the US government has an AI export ban into China. The 4090 didn't meet that ban, so obviously the 5080, if they want to sell that into China, it can't be as strong as a 4090. It has to be as strong as a 4090D, which is the cut-down version of the 4090 that they sold into China. It basically just came in underneath those regulations. And those regulations aren't changing, essentially. So that's kind of like a hard wall there. And people say, well, just forget the Chinese market. Well, that'd be like saying, forget the US market or forget the entire European market. They're just not going to do that. It's a massive market out there. It's super important to them. And they are the dominant player in that market. They want to maintain that market dominance. So there's a lot of this stuff that's actually where it's not necessarily the technical specifications are going to hold back the 50 series. It's kind of like some of this geopolitics stuff. And then from there, kind of everything is cut down from where you would normally see it. So instead of the 70 series class, basically replacing the 90 series class from the previous generation as the way the 4070 did to the 3090, for instance, you'll probably see the 80 class card trade blows with the 90 class card, and the 70 series card will come in quite a bit below that. So we're not going to get the kind of price or performance that we're hoping for. My other concern is since I released that video, I've seen more pricing rumor leaks, and they're all basically NVIDIA going kind of crazy with the pricing. I projected NVIDIA would pretty much stay within the current Super Series pricing of like the 4070, 4080 Super, the 4070 Ti Super, and they'd stay within that similar framework. People are saying basically they're gonna go up $100, or sometimes some of the folks are saying even more than that. I don't necessarily think that's the case, but it's just worrying as you get these leaks out there. Now, how valid are they? It's hard to say. But pricing is the other concern. And of course, VRAM is a massive concern. The fact that all the specs that we're seeing for the 5060 and 5060 Ti are like 8 gigs of VRAM, although the 5060 Ti, I've seen ones now where it does look like maybe they're gonna do 16 gigs of RAM like they did with the 4060 Ti. You're actually gonna clamshell the RAM on, even though it's only got a 128-bit bus on it. And then the 5060, they're going to just go with 8 gigs of VRAM again. That's all very worrying. So VRAM is already an issue with the 4060. If you look at the pre-built market, for instance, if you want to buy a pre-built with an RTX 3060 12 gigabyte, it costs more than an RTX 4060 8 gigabyte with similar specs on both PCs, where the only difference is really the graphics card. Even the same SI, the same system integrator, the 3060 system goes for more because it's 12 gigs of VRAM. Clearly, gamers have gotten the message out there that VRAM is important. So I said I would be shocked in that other video if NVIDIA released a 5060 that only had 8 gigs of VRAM as its only option. Maybe there will be a 16 gigabyte version of the 5060 and they'll just clamshell the memory on for like another $30 or $40 out there because of the SI issue. Because as much as we love the DIY PC market, the pre-built market is huge, right? The OEM and the pre-built market is absolutely huge for NVIDIA as well out there. And so they're going to listen to those system integrators. They're going to listen to people like HP out there. They're saying, hey, people are buying the 3060 systems that have 12 gigs instead of our 4060 systems, and we're having to sell those 4060 systems at a massive discount. What the heck, NVIDIA? Give us something we can sell. So those are my big issues right now, my big concerns with the RTX 5000 series. All right, what about the Intel Arc B580 out there? Still Brittany's asked, what are my thoughts on all the reviews about the Arc B580? Would I recommend it given how it shows improvements over the A770 at far less issues? And then Clinton S, channel member, by the way, you can join, click that link down in the video description, B580 value. Let's just start with what Intel actually released. By the way, we did not get a card. However, I was able to purchase one at Newegg for MSRP. In fact, it's sitting right there. It's sitting right there. We are going to do a live stream build with it for channel members. So if you want to become a channel member, click that join button. It's pretty cheap, but we absolutely have a ton of fun doing that. What do I think about it in terms of value? Let's just talk about GPUs right now, and we'll get on to what we think is coming down the pike and where it might kind of find its place. Right now, it is the best price to performance GPU under $300. The 7600 XT, I think, is in that mix. We saw it on Black Friday for $279, but at a competitive price with the B580. At that price, I think AMD might make a little bit more sense. You're not going to have some of the driver issues. That being said, I read all the reviews. I watched all the reviews. The number of folks who had problems seemed like they did their testing earlier on. It did seem like Intel was able to fix a lot of those issues. And I would suspect Intel's going to spend a lot of time in the next couple months squashing bugs and a lot of stuff and improving the driver support, same way they did with the Arc A series. So it's going to be an early adopter product. You're going to need to put up with some issues on it. That being said, would I recommend it to somebody who can build their own gaming PC? Sure. At this point, I'd feel comfortable enough recommending it. I would just caveat that with, you might have a couple of games where you have some challenges. You might need to tinker with it a little bit, but a lot less than the A-series cards out there. So I think it's a good entry. I think it's going to force AMD and NVIDIA to try and be a little bit more, maybe this is a naive thought, but I think it's going to force a little bit more competition at that lower price point, especially in terms of the VRAM on the cards out there. That's the big challenge right now. There was nothing wrong with the 4060 in terms of its rasterization performance. There's nothing wrong with the 7600 in terms of its rasterization performance. The problem was the amount of VRAM. If they basically could have taken 6650 XT levels of performance and given it 12 or 16 gigs of VRAM, that would have been fine for $270. We didn't get that. But that's in terms of what's out there right now. What about the cards that are coming? Well, 5060 may only have 8 gigs of VRAM. It will probably be faster. So there are a lot of titles out there where you don't need more than 8 gigs of VRAM right now, especially if you play competitive shooters where you're just going to basically turn the textures all the way down to basic, like competitive settings where there's just like kind of potato settings, right? So you get tons and tons of frames out there. You don't need that much VRAM. If that's you, maybe the 5060 is the card you want to get and you go ahead and get that. But if you're somebody who likes to play Hogwarts Legacy or those kind of games where VRAM is important and the card is fast enough now where if at 1440p, if you turn it to ultra settings or turn up the textures to ultra, VRAM does make a difference. And listen, the dam is broken on around 8 gigs of VRAM. We're not going back. It didn't need to break now. I don't want to get into all that right now, but basically game developers are no longer going to spend the amount of time optimizing for PC that they did 5 or 10 years ago. So you're just going to have to get more VRAM. You're going to have to get 12 or 16 gigs of VRAM, and you're just going to deal with it. And there are tons of games that are coming out in the next year or two where the developers have just decided that they're just not gonna play nice necessarily with 8 gig cards out there. So buckle up for that era, and that's why you need something like the B580. And I think it's a good value now. Whether or not Intel's making money off that, I don't really care. I'm a consumer. To me, if Intel thought that they were gonna make money on their first or second generation GPUs, they were out of their minds. They're buying market share. If they came in with any other mindset into their GPU adventure here, that they were gonna do anything else other than buy market share, they were crazy. And maybe they were crazy, but that's what they need to do right now, is continue to buy market share. Even if they break even on the second generation or slightly lose money, that's a much better investment to me than their fabs are necessarily. That's a whole nother topic out there. So that's what I would be looking to do. And hopefully Intel will continue to make discrete GPUs into Celestial a couple of years from now. All right, Spooky Foo says, any news about the Ryzen 9800X 3D restock shipments? Leo Resnikov, basically the same question. When's the 9800X 3D going to come back? What is going on with AMD Ryzen X3D CPUs out there? They're crazy priced. I can't get a hold of one. They're out of stock everywhere. Listen, the big reason is Intel fell flat on their face. It has no competition. It's not like you're just going to go out and buy a 1400K, 1300K like you would have in a previous generation instead and gone with that, because I'd be scared of the 1400K. I'd be scared of the 1300K and degradation issues. You don't want to have a PC for a year or 2 years and then have it just basically die on you, or not die, but just not be able to hit the frequency levels it's supposed to hit anymore because the CPU is slowly degrading in there. So what are you going to get? An Ultra 9 285K that has worse gaming performance by a lot? No, of course not. You want 9800X 3D. I'll also say that we have heard that AMD is doing everything that they can to shove more of these things out the door. They actually had quite a good volume of these things in November for launch, but they just couldn't keep up because there's no competition from Intel right now. So everybody's buying their product. It's absolutely insane right now. The other thing is they don't even have good competition from their own CPUs, because nobody bought Ryzen 9000 non-X3D because they're terrible value. It's basically like 2 CPUs are selling out there: 7600, 7600X, 7500F class of CPUs. And then for gaming, the 9800X3D, because the 7800X3D is largely sold out. So if you, or 7800X3D if you can find one, and you can't find the 9800X3D, that's what they're selling. On the production side, I hear still 7950X, 9950X keeps selling out, by the way. Obviously, if you're going to spend a couple $1,000 building a high-end production rig, the $100 or $150 difference between the 7950X and the 9950X, it's not really that big a deal in terms of the overall system cost. But if you're building a gaming PC, the difference between those CPUs can be massive. The difference between a 7600 and a 9800X 3D is what, like $300? $300! That is crazy. That's a lot of money you could spend on your GPU. And I see far too many people like, Jason, I'm going to build a 9800X 3D with an RTX 4070. And I'm just like, no, don't do it. Get a 7600. You can upgrade to X3D in the future on the same platform. Invest on your GPU right now. You will get so much more gaming performance out of it. But listen, it's your money. You can do with it what you will. I totally respect that. You're the one who has to live with whatever you put together out there. So I'm going to support you either way, but trust me, you don't want to invest all your money in the 9800X 3D, but that's what people are doing right now, and that's making it even worse. I project probably February, maybe March before we see some of those stock levels start to stabilize out there, just because demand is so crazy. All right, Mormon Dude asks, do I think Intel's gonna make their own 3D VCache chips? Answer related, but do I think 3D VCache is gonna become standard for all gaming CPUs? I don't know if it's going to become standard. It's hard to make it cheap. That being said, we've seen the 5600X 3D, that was a Micro Center exclusive, of course. You saw the 7600X 3D, that was both at Micro Center, but also at some German retailers as well. It's hard to say if they're going to be able to take that level of performance and bring it down to a lower price point for like budget gaming CPUs. I will say, however, obviously, cache makes a huge impact on gaming. And in terms of Intel, I don't know why they haven't already come out with their own 3D VCache chips. Now, they say that Pat Gelsinger said during Intel's last innovation event, the only one they held because they canceled it this year, in 2023, that was over a year ago, that they were working on something similar but not the same. I was like, well, why aren't you working on the same thing? Unless there's a patented process that they cannot get around that AMD holds patents to, why are you not working on X3D? And in fact, other spokespeople from Intel just saying silly stuff out there like, oh, well, that only matters for gaming and we want to do other things. Like, excuse me? For the longest time, when Ryzen was cleaning your clocks in terms of production and it was close in gaming, you said, yeah, but we still win gaming. So get an Intel CPU. And now that AMD is winning gaming, you're saying, oh, no, it's all about production. I actually don't think it's about production anymore. When AMD was winning production, by the way, 4 or 5 years ago, or not even 4 or 5 years ago, 3 or 5 years ago, I would say that that's because at the time, you're dealing with 4-core, 8-thread Intel CPUs, or in a lot of cases, 4-core, 4-thread, and you had a massive bottleneck to run any kind of professional application suite for even for amateurs out there, any kind of Photoshop, any kind of Adobe Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve or any kind of video editing stuff. These days, CPUs have become so powerful, they're actually too powerful for a lot of these applications out there, where a lot of these applications can't even take advantage of all that power. We've kind of come to a kind of a parity in terms of productivity. We don't need all these extra cores and threads to do a lot of stuff anymore. I'm not saying that software won't keep catching up, but right now we've seen it surge ahead in terms of the hardware. But in terms of gaming, the thing that's driving the performance now seems to be 3D VCache. And Intel is just not meeting the demand there. It's almost like they're stuck in a mentality from 5 years ago where, oh, we need more cores and threads. Don't need more cores and threads anymore. You need more VCache. You need a better I/O die. You need to be able to take advantage of faster memory speeds. And Intel just hasn't delivered on that. So I'm hoping that they will, but I don't understand the statements that have come out. That being said, obviously leadership changed at Intel, so we'll see. All right, Fantastic Crew asks, why is Cat cute? To that I respond, yes. Mr. Bear obviously not here right now. He's actually outside. It's a beautiful day in New Orleans right now. And so my wife's taking him outside in the backyard. He loves like sniffing everything out there. Obviously, he was an apartment cat for like a million years. Since we got him, we originally lived in San Francisco when we first got him. We lived in a 450 square foot, 1-bedroom apartment. That being said, we did have a little tiny patio outside. He could go out. Fortunately, he broke his leg when he was only like 15 months old. One night we had to take him in. We had a huge surgery. I like to say he spent his college fund basically rehabilitating his leg. And after that, we decided no more outside cat for him. And then we moved to New York City in 2016. And then he's been an apartment cat ever since, until we moved here in 2023.
What do you think? We found the cat tree.
And we have an actual house with an actual yard, and he absolutely loves it. In fact, he demands to go out. And if we don't get him out at a certain time of day, which he knows is his appointed time to go outside and kind of do his rounds, he gets super upset with us. So we don't have the cat here right now, but he is, of course, making sure the high quality of all these videos all the time. Remember, if you got value out of this video, please give it a like. It makes a huge difference to the channel. And of course, subscribe for more cool PC content, like our look at the new GPUs coming out in 2025. Click this video right here. We went through all of them. Or the new CPUs coming out in 2025. We also went through all of them, including new VCache CPUs and NVIDIA CPUs. And we'll catch you on the next one.